In this session, we're going to take a look at EventSentry's process monitoring feature again, but this time with a focus on actually monitoring and ensuring that a process is active. So we already went over the base functionality of process monitoring that gives us access to all the running processes for troubleshooting purposes, for example, also for inventory security reasons. But now we're going to take a look at the ability to be notified when a critical process is not running. And again, what could that be? Pretty much any critical application that you're running on your network that's not necessarily a service, because we can already monitor services with EventSentry service monitoring, that you want to make sure is running. Docker would be a good example. And there's, of course, countless other examples of applications that you may want to have running that are not necessarily associated or not a service. So how does that work? So here we hit the plus icon and we essentially specify the name of the process exactly as it would appear in Task Manager. And I'm going to use the example of calculator. So I'm going to run calc.exe. It's going to bring up the Windows calculator. If I go into Task Manager and go to details, and I can verify that calculator is actually running. And in this particular case, it's called Win32 calc.exe. So what we're going to do, and this is from an earlier session too, we're going to put in Win32 calc.exe. So we're just going to essentially pretend that running the calculator is a critical process and that we want it to be active. Required number of instances is 1. There may be situations where multiple instances of your critical process have to be running. Then you can adjust that number here. And if the process also needs to be running with a specific command line argument, then you can specify that here as well. And you can specify wildcards here as well. So if you have multiple processes, let's say WinCalc 1, 2, 3, 4, we could simply add a wildcard here and that would work as well. And that's really it. So now we're saying, okay, Win32 calculator needs to be active. Start monitoring processes seconds after service starts. So that means after the agent starts. So sometimes, processes may take a little while to be active. So we could say, okay, well, we're going to give Windows 2 minutes to start this process. We want to get notified at most every 15 minutes when that process is inactive. So adjust it accordingly. And we're going to log this as an error. And that's it. So I'm going to go back to home. Save and deploy. And of course, this is a global package that's going to apply to every computer here. So we would be getting alerts from any agent now. In reality, what you'd want to do here is create a separate package and simply add the calculator there instead of adding it to this package, which is mostly just used for the the inventory, the process network status that's going to be written to the database. So now I'm going to take a look here. So it's configuration was reread, so we're good. Calculator, of course, is active, so I'm going to close it. And then we'll see how long it takes for EventSentry to let us know. And there we go. So now, in this particular case, we're getting 2 alerts because this feature is actually also supported on Linux hosts. And since this is a global package, we can now see that EventSentry is telling us about all sorts of machines where this process is not running, including ours. So how do we remedy this? Well, very simple. We're going to hit add here. We're going to say process monitoring calculator. We're going to assign this only to this server here. We're going to add a process monitoring object. Remember, it was called Win32 calc.exe, 1 instance. What we're setting here doesn't really matter. We're going to just set it to the same setting, however, that we had on the other package. This is still how we had it before. Now we're going to remove it from here because we don't want this to be applied to all computers. So we're going to review this. So this is the same as we had before. We're going to just add the database here as well, just in case. And again, this is only going to be applied to our local computer now. I'm going to hit save and deploy. I'm going to wait here for the 1035 event. Okay. So that package is now essentially doing the same thing as before. And we're going to start calculator again. Okay, it's been recognized. I'm gonna wait a little bit longer. And here we are. So this is an informational event, and it's now confirming one instance of process Win32 Calculix is currently active on host EventSentry. So everything's good again. All right, so these are the events that EventSentry will be logging, 10.401 and 10.402. And of course, you can find all of that information in the documentation. So this feature is also available, as you just saw, for non-Windows machines, actually through SNMP. So if you have Linux machines, BSD machines, whatnot, where you want to monitor processes, then you can use EventSentry for that as well. And that's really how simple it is to make sure a process is running. You can even tie actions then to this. So if you were to go here to the 10.401 event, right click and say, add include filter, you could then link this to a filter that could potentially restart the process or manually launch some sort of a recovery script to automatically restart that process.